Hello again. Welcome to... Oh, Jimmy, what are you doing?
Sorry.
Caught us unaware. Welcome to Untangled, your knitting and sometimes crochet question and answer podcast show with me, Stuart from the Wool Patch.
Me, Jimmy from Jimmy Does Knitting.
Are you all right, Jimmy? You're doing all right?
We're getting there. It's been a rough couple of days, but we'll be all right for this.
All right. Okay, well, let's get straight into it. Question number 1. Submitted by Lisa from Calgary. Look at that, Jimmy. People are getting us from all around the world, which is lovely. Calgary, Canada. Question. I just finished watching the episode where you discussed the Italian sewn bind-off, and I have a follow-up question. For the bottom hem of a sweater, the yarn needed to bind off is very long, and I almost always run into the fraying issue discussed. And I also struggle with that bind off when using mohair because it's sticky and hard to pull through. Do you have any recommended substitutes for a bind off that looks similar to or is as nice as the Italian sewn bind off? And thanks for doing this podcast. I love it. Well, first of all, thank you, Lisa, for that. They are, Jimmy. Look, all your efforts. See, people do love it, don't they? But, question. What do you think about that for an answer for you?
That's an interesting one. I don't know if I have an alternative that looks similar. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can do an Italian bind-off with like some setup rows or not, potentially, but it's still the dragging the yarn through that's the problem. I would say that if you're having a problem with the mohair, I would maybe consider doing the bind off without the mohair. That might help. Just because it will be a tighter bind off a little bit anyway. So that might be an option. But other than that, I would suggest maybe going and searching through a couple of things. I know that there's somebody on Instagram that I follow called Ruke, R-U-K-E. And she has a sewn bind-off, which is still a sewn bind-off, but it's just a little bit easier to do than the Italian bind-off. It might be a good alternative. I just don't think that a knit bind-off and a sewn bind-off are going to be exactly the same. Unless you do some sort of like double knit situation, maybe. But I would have to experiment with that. So I don't know if I have a really great or clear answer with that one. How about you?
Well, I've never done it, so I don't really know. In my ignorance, and this is, sorry, Lisa, this is, I don't know if this is going to help, but is it not simply a case of really going slowly? I know you want to get it finished, and we pull that yarn through, and even if you go slowly, yes, I know there's a lot of stitches, but is it not a case of just really, really going even slower than you think? So if you think you're going slow, perhaps they're not going slow enough when they pull through that yarn. Is it that?
I mean, it is possible for sure. I think that, I mean, there are 1,000 reasons for tearing, which we discussed on a previous episode.
Yeah.
And I think going slow, being delicate is your best bet. If you're also, it depends on the yarn a little bit. If you're using like unspun wool or something like I wouldn't do an Italian bind off. So it's a little bit of what's going on. But I mean, the main thing is reducing the tension on the yarn or reducing the friction of the yarn.
Yeah.
And so going slowly, being gentle, moving the needle. So it's like all the stresses on like the whole string as opposed to a particular point. I think that's the best. There's not like a great solution for that. But I would be curious if they experimented with other bind-offs and told us what those were, because I have a couple that I want to try coming up.
Oh, okay. Oh, they are, Lisa. If you do experiment, let us know. But do you know what I would say? If you really love the Italian one, just stick with it. And also, in my limited experience and ignorance with this, I would almost say as well, why not do, say, 10 stitches of an evening of pulling it through, and then this is going to sound really, really, I don't know, but let the yarn cool down, because that friction is obviously getting a little bit of warmth, maybe. Can you not then do another 20 stitches tomorrow and then let it stop? And then the day after, could that not possibly mitigate the friction and the the whole yarn tearing issue?
I don't know, but it will definitely force you to slow down and be more
so.
patient and come up with something. That's for sure.
Try that, Lisa. Let us know. But in my simple brained head, I just think that would work. Just go, and even just to say, going even super slow, because that's going to stop that friction and that heat and that rubbing effect. I would have thought. Good luck. Thanks for your kind words, though. Okay, Jimmy, next one. Question number 2. This is all you. You've done all the talking. Jimmy, Berta says from New York, how did you learn to design sweaters? Books, YouTube, classes, trial and error, or maybe I'd say all of those. Which ones? Tell us in a short little way.
It's mostly through YouTube and trial and error. As a male presenting person, a lot of times sweaters are not graded to my body and they don't fit. And as I'm making a custom made garment that takes, 40, 50, 100 hours to make, I want it to fit me. And so a lot of it came through exploring how to modify the things I needed for that particular pattern to get me. So that was the first step. There are great resources on YouTube. We cite, Roxanne Richardson all the time here. Very Pink Knits is also a great resource. And then, just trying stuff out. For example, what I'm wearing is my latest cast off. I cast this off today, but this is a total experiment, and it needs a second draft for sure. But sometimes you just got to play and have fun and try to do stuff, and then you learn. So there is stuff that can be taught. I have books that help, especially with some of the crazier sweater things, but sometimes you also just have to experiment. So it's a combination of different things, and it depends on what you want to achieve, how you want to achieve it. I start small by modifying stuff, sleeve length, body length, maybe yoke depth of something, and then you can kind of get a feel for that from there about what you want to go and explore and do and try.
I can quite easily imagine that learning by doing that you did is probably the fastest way of learning too, and where the learning is really embedded because you've done it. I love looking at a book and going, oh, that's nice, and reading, but actually sometimes that then doesn't stick or embed enough. So do you find that when you actually do something, you're like, oh right, oh now I can fully see it as well, and then you really understand what you're doing and where you're coming from?
Yeah, of course. I think in school, when I was doing my architectural degree, I drew stuff a lot, which, I'm sort of the age where drawing was out and computers were starting to come in. But everybody was impressed that I was drawing so much because I needed to do that line on that paper in order to know it, in order to do it. And so for me, the knitting experience is really important. And then another thing is ripping out is part of designing. It's part of learning. I rip out a lot, and I rip out a large amount of my garments. Now, sometimes it goes into the naughty corner once I do that, but I think the amount of fear a lot of people have with things, or the thought of ripping out, really prevents them from progressing. They're holding themselves back, and it's just, you have to look at it in terms of fun, and you can always reknit it, and it's a learning experience, and you can, go back and try it, The idea may have to marinate, or you can try a different technique, a different way, that sort of thing. But I think being fearless is also something that's really helped with my learning design and trying new things.
Oh, cool. So this pattern that you've got there, I have to say, the neck really caught my eye when you came on ready for this recording. And I was like, ooh, that's a nice neck. Are you happy with the neck, or is that still needing work? Where are you with that?
So the neck is okay. So the idea with this was a triangle shirt. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, I saw that on Instagram. Yes, yeah.
So it's literally just like a triangle down. Yeah. Now, there are issues with the sleeves that I don't like, and some of the shaping is a bit weird. But in general, the idea was like 2 identical triangles to make a summer shirt. And this was part of it, was just you knit the front, and then it has like just an unfinished neck. Then you pick up, knit the back yoke, and then increase along it. So the idea was just really simple knitting, no like finishings that weren't already knit into everything, and it's like easy because it's like DK weight on a 4.5 millimeter needle, which I think is like a US 7 or something. So Lovely. It was a good experiment. The shaping was interesting. It needs a second draft, but I mean, I got some cheap yarn, knit it up. I had this idea, tried it out. Maybe I do a second version, maybe not, but I don't know. We'll see.
So this is nowhere near like testing yet. You don't know whether you're even getting to that point of other people testing it. I
don't like the shaping of it.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I think that I could do it better. So I would have to knit another one first.
So it's still with you for a couple of goes at least before it gets anywhere near. So. Oh, okay. Cool. Well, I like the neck though. Do like the neck.
Thanks.
Now, speaking of shape and neck, that leads us nicely on to our last question from Julian. Look, Jimmy, we're now in Germany. How wonderful is this? Thrilled. So many people are sending in questions and listening to us. Julian says, so this is a Raglan sweater question. A philosophical, I can't say it. A philosophical. Oh, Jimmy,
philosophical.
That's it. Philosophical. I couldn't get my right bit of stress on the word. A philosophical and a practical one. Why are there so many Raglan designs out there when basically Raglan is the design? You can change the measurements and the techniques a bit, but in the end, the design is still a Raglan. I like that the design is so minimalist and obviously universal. That's the Raglan beauty to me. But why try to reinvent the wheel? And then the practical part. I did knit a basic Raglan sweater last fall. I wanted to go for another one. As there are so many Raglan patterns, I keep wondering if and how much they differ from each other, and how I decide which one to choose and knit then. Whew, okay, right. Thanks, Julian. Brilliant one. That gives us a good 10-15 minutes of this episode to chat about that. Let's go to the first part.
Well, let's explain what a Raglan sweater is first.
Oh, that's a good idea. Even better, yeah.
Let's try that. So I have an example. This is my enigmatic sweater. This is a top-down Raglan, which is what he's discussing. And what a Raglan is it's this sort of shape. And you can see that there are increases on the front and the back and 2 spots that split the front and back from the sleeves. And so there are 4 total areas where you increase on it, and then you just knit. So there's top down, you can do this bottom up, you can do it in pieces, you can do it a bunch of different ways. But yeah, it's those 4 points where you go out from down. So that is a Raglan style sweater, and it is a style of sweater, much like a drop shoulder or a saddle shoulder or a yoke. So that's the basics of Raglan.
Yeah, and I don't know whether this is folklore or not. Doesn't it go back to medieval times when Lord Raglan, or I might be making it up, was on the horse and he's got his sword, and it was... Did he have one arm? I'm sure there's something like that. I might be making that up.
I've never heard of this.
Oh, have you not? Oh, no, this is where it... Oh yeah, I'm right. I'm now going to quickly Google it. And the idea is, he needed something designed for him so he could be on the horse and go. And a normal top doesn't allow that. There's not much movement, is there really, with a normal set-in sleeve? Whereas the Raglan shape, where it comes from the neck down the arm, allows the arm to move I'm sure. I'm just going to put Raglan jumper history, and see where this comes from. Oh, look, here we go. The first one up. The surprising history of the Raglan sleeve. Blah, 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 blah. Lord Raglan wouldn't be held down by his disability, who had to have his right arm amputated. That's right. He didn't want to be beaten by his disability. So in I'm not doing very well with talking today. In consultation with his tailor, the two men devised an alternative technique for sewing his shirts and jackets. Instead of a prefix sleeve set into the armhole, the new design was a sleeve that extended in one piece to the collar, leaving, as Jimmy said, a diagonal seam from the underarm to the collar. This allowed for greater movement, making it easier for Lord Raglan to dress and swing a sword. That's how the Raglan sleeve was invented, and look at that, it's still going now. And I love a Raglan jumper for that, the ease, the movement, but I also do love those diagonal lines, and that's where I think we come to that rest of the question of the design. That is the design, but you can tweak around it, and I think that's where the patterns do that. So it is minimalist, but then it's a case of, do you have, because the sleeve comes from the neck down, if you hold yours up again, Jimmy, are you going to design with that as a feature and have it patterned and then the front plain? Or opposite way around, or as Jimmy's done there, you can see two distinctive patterns, and then because that can flow down the sleeve, I think that's why designers like it so much, because it is a raglan, but there are so many options for playing around with pattern and design. That's what I would say, Julian. So when it comes to that bit there are so many raglan patterns. I wonder how much they differ from each other. I suppose in design, that's what's going to catch your eye first. So the design will change. But yes, Jimmy, will the mathematics necessarily change? Oh, they will. Oh, right. I was just about to say they probably won't, but they will, you say?
The math on Raglans, especially for like larger sizes, is crazy.
Oh,
so
really?
Typically what you will do is somebody will increase every other row until you get the width of the chest circumference, and that's how they'll do it. But there are a bunch of different types of way that you can increase for Raglans. So there are, there's gauge, there's the depth of the yoke that affects the raglan, and so how many stitches you increase based on the yarn thing. It also depends on the neck width, like what you're starting with, if it's more of like a boat neck or if it's high and tight, that sort of thing. Shaping affects the math some as well. If you're going to put in some short row shaping at the collar or underneath on the underarm is another place that's good to do it. And then there's also compound raglan. So typically when we think of a raglan sweater, it's just straight 45. But you can have it so it goes out a little bit more. So you increase more rapidly at first, which would accommodate a broader shoulder. Or you can have it so the increase is like I'm trying to do this backwards maybe. I don't know if it's going to work, but it's like quick increase, the every other row, and then quick increase again, which would allow for a better shape also and a better fit with the underarm. So I know like an Agio knit sweater, it's just going to be the every other row until you hit the body circumference, and the yoke depth might be really big. With Isolde Teague has really good, really well thought out raglans, where she talks more about like bust shaping and then how to fit the yoke width with the yoke depth, and takes into shoulders, like all of that sort of math, which is like very well done. So there's really a whole spectrum that you can do in terms of like a stockinette raglan shaping. in order to get what you want. So yes, there are a million Raglan patterns. I would have to say a lot of the popular ones that you are seeing out and about are probably not that different. But there are so many masks to go with a Raglan construction potentially that you can really have quite a wide variety. So depending on the designer and what they're trying to achieve, which may or may not actually be stated in the pattern, you're going to get a different result.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. So Julian says at the end there, how I decide which one to choose and knit, it's going to be difficult because I would choose normally by the picture. I'm that simple. I go, oh yeah, I love that. And then you can come a cropper when you realise it doesn't seem, the beauty of top down though is being able to try it on, and then you might get somewhere and you're like, oh no, I'm supposed to be splitting now, and I'm only here. So I'm afraid, Julian, it might just be trial and error. You like the picture, and you'll go for it, or as Jimmy just did say there, you learn which designer, and that may be by trial and error, has got that perfect raglan shape that suits you, their pattern, because of their maths, the way they've done the increases and whatnot. I suppose the better designer might have that information or some sort of information on the Ravelry page. If you haven't used Ravelry, Julian, that may be the best place, because some do give a lot of info on that homepage, don't they, Jimmy?
Yeah, I would say that any designer worth their salt should have a diagram or some sort of measurements with like the yoke depth at least for a raglan, which would help you know how you're going to modify. You have to buy the pattern first, but they would help you learn how to modify. And then if you're on Ravelry or Instagram, look at the pictures.
Yeah.
See what you think about them. The classic one is the halibut sweater by Caitlin Hunter, maybe. It's that fish one. And the thing with that is in order to get the pattern on the way that it needs to be, the yoke depth for that is like super long. Although that might be a yoke sweater, but this is the example still applies, where the yoke depth is super long in order to make the pattern hit, and you can see that on different versions of it. And so when you're looking at the patterns, you can say like, this is somebody who looks like me and has a really long yoke depth, or this person has like a much shorter torso and it looks tight on them, so it might be like super tight on me depending on how you compare to them. I think that that's a really helpful and useful tool.
Julian, I hope that helps. I love a raglan and I will look for it. And you say I did knit a basic raglan sweater last fall and want to go for another one. Brilliant. Most of my ladies who come to knit and natter at the shop love doing raglans. They are still old school and they knit flat. And that's why they like raglans, because it's easier to knit and a joy to sew up, because no one likes sewing up. And they will specifically look for raglan patterns purely because easier to knit and nicer to sew up. So there are so many things in favour for it. But how I decide which ones to choose, just get looking on Ravelry, look for those pictures, word of mouth, experts like Jimmy and recommendations. We'll try and put them down in the description below. I did a lovely raglan from, the name completely escapes me, but that was my Christmas cast on the last year, not the one just gone, the one before. Alicia Plummer, sorry, yes. Oh, she could do a great raglan. Julian,
she does a great job.
If you've not seen her stuff, Julian, take a look. And it fitted me a treat. Various options as well if you needed to extend it or to change the fit. But it was so simple because it was stocking stitch here and then just a really delicate broken rib just for the top part. And that was it. So it was a really enjoyable knit that really then still showed off the raglan shape. So hope that helps. and a nice question, even though poorly read from me, but it did inspire a quick historical look of where the raglan sleeve came from. Look, Jimmy, you didn't even know that either, did you?
I want to fact check that, but yeah,
that's right.
I'll go with it for now.
It might be one of those ones that just got in folklore, but it was a Google search, not Google AI. So hopefully that is true. I'm sure our viewers will let us know. Oh, great! There we are. 3 questions. Boom, done, in the can. Hope you've enjoyed it. As always, the link is in the description below where you can send us your questions. We've got quite a few to get through, so you'll be listening to us each week over the coming weeks, over the rest of summer hopefully. Then it will be really knitting time for autumn and winter, September and October here in the UK and Europe as the nights get darker, which I'm looking forward to. Are you, Jimmy? All that knitting time?
It's always knitting time for me, so it's not a big deal.
True. All right then. Cheers, Jimmy. Thanks, everyone. See you on the next one.
Bye.